Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, respected judges. My name is Michael Timothy. Today I'm going to tell you about my presentation, which is about the US, titled The New Era of Trade, US-China Trade War. Well, I'm sure you've all heard about the US-China trade war before. Well, it actually has been going on since the year 2018, when US first imposed tariffs to China, and it's been going on back and forth until that point, until this year 2025, and may still be going on in 2026 and so on, right? But why exactly should we care about this whole trade war that's been going on in US and China, right? We're not actually affected by it. Well, whether we like it or not, we are actually affected by it, since both China and US are both have a lot of global trade power, right? And what they do actually affects us all in the rest of the world, whether indirectly or directly. And today we're going to uncover how does that impact us. Well, for example, Apple, one of the tech giants in the US, was actually heavily reliant on China on its supply and production. But ever since the trade war has been going on, Apple has been considering to move out its production line from China to Vietnam or maybe also to India. And this is just one of the many examples of how this affects us all. And today, let's see about the three impacts of this trade war in the global value chains. First and foremost, it's about the production decentralization. Back then, production may rely on any one country. For example, China can produce themselves on China territory, right? But now, it's becoming harder and harder, so that China is actually starting to move out its production line to elsewhere. And the second one is about trade laws. It is important for us all to realize that there will always be trade losses here. Even US and China cannot really know whether they're winning or not, because US and China have both taken losses, and they don't know which one has taken a lot more losses than the other. And the last one is about value chain redesigning. So a lot of companies and countries have actually started to being forced into trying to change their strategy before, into substitution of input, manufacturing relocation, and also the network redesigning. Because supply chain will not be the same as it was pre-trade era war and also after the trade war era. Now, after we talk about the impact, let's see about the strategic responses in both sides, on US and also China. First one is about China. China has a +1 strategy, which means that it is trying to move out, establish additional production in other countries such as Vietnam, Malaysia, or Thailand, while also maintaining production in mainland. This strategy has proven to be quite effective somewhat because they're trying to label their products as made in Vietnam or Malaysia so that they can bypass the tariffs that the US are imposing to China, right? And the second one is about US. US's strategy is to have what they call as reshoring and friendshoring. What they're doing is trying to bring back investment back into their own country. So, for example, TSMC is actually very much affected by this. US is pushing TSMC to move its fabs, its semiconductor fabs, to US so that it can bring more investments, more productions, and saving up its investments for the future, semiconductors especially. And the third one is about the specialty of neutrality of Southeast Asia. What we often don't see in the tariff trade war is that there's actually some countries who are winning because of their neutrality. For example, mostly in Southeast Asia, a lot of countries such as Vietnam, Malaysia, or Thailand, they're actually relatively neutral between US and China. So they are actually a viable middleman between these two countries, so that trade has been going on between them. This is what we call as trade reallocation, right? Trades that were going on in US and China indirectly has been going on through a middleman, which is these countries in Southeast Asia. Now, what exactly should we do with this information? Right? We know that the trade war is bad for the economics, and we as a country, maybe as Taiwan, what should we do about it? As a country or as a company? Well, first and foremost is to realize our own positions in this trade war. Where do we stand in the economic war? Do we stand in the US side, in the Chinese side, or maybe in the middle? Are we more likely to have more benefits if we trade with US or with China, or etc., etc.? And what are they doing in response to us trading with the other side? That is the first and foremost that we need to do in each company and each country. The second one is to establish a diversification of our supply line. What we did before cannot be done again. We cannot rely on any single country, because once that country is being tariffed, then our investments are all more than already gone, right? And the last one is to realize and to see that there is always a benefit in these wars. here, Southeast Asia is a bit relatively neutral to both sides, so maybe we can try to exploit that. And lastly, I want to emphasize that in the end, what matters is adaptability. Or as Charles Darwin put it, it is not the strongest that survive, nor the most intelligent, but it is the one who adapts the most to change. I'm Matthew, thank you very much for your attention.
Presentation, but it takes the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.